course, I'm trying to mix things up a little bit. I was like, why don't we play some PLO? So next thing you know, we were playing a mixed game. We were playing No Limit Hold'em for an orbit and Pot Limit Omaha for an orbit. That was a lot of fun. I literally have no idea what's going on at the MGM, but it was stupid busy. Driving there, I was stuck on the strip for like 30 minutes. I actually had to park across the street and park at the New York, and now I'm walking across. It's pretty funny because actually when I first started playing at the MGM, I would do that. I would park at the New York, and just walk across the street. So whenever I like lost a shit ton of money in a session, it would suck really, really bad to have to walk all the way to the New York. Today is gonna be like it's gonna be a no bullshit, let's get straight to poker kind of day. I've already called in, I'm already on the list. We're gonna be playing 1-2 No Limit Hold'em. They have a 3-6 mixed game going on too right now, but I think that game is sort of dying. They only have one game going right now. So hopefully by the time that I get there, we will jump onto a table. MGM is part of M Life, so make sure you guys go and get an M Life card at the promotion center. I will list the promotions here. So the promotions will be there. So make sure you guys check it out. It is football season, so during football season, they do a whole bunch of promotions like football squares and a whole bunch of extra money. I don't know if they're doing splash pots, but I did play at the MGM for the Super Bowl this year. So let's get to it. We're gonna run down to the MGM. All right, guys, just walked into the MGM. Now just remember, MGM's the home of Hakkasan, Top Golf. They got the Jabberwockies here, the iconic lion out in the front of the casino. So you know MGM is really alive. So the poker room used to be right next to the centrifuge bar, right down there. Used to be right adjacent to it, sort of adjacent to the sports book. They did end up moving it deeper into the casino, right next to a sports bar, but nonetheless, people still go there. After people go to Hakkasan, they'll stumble over to the poker room. Let's hope we can catch some fish that's going down there, and let's take their money. Don't have my mic, but today's game of choice is 1-2 No Limit. My starting bankroll is right there. We're gonna buy in for 100 bigs, buying in for $200 this time. Let's try and run it up. Let's get it.
Call showdown, please. Kings, Jack kicker. Flush.
I am doing my mid-session update right now, right in front of the Jabberwockies. Hey, if you guys haven't checked this show out, definitely check it out. It's fucking awesome. You know, I love the Jabberwockies. I love them since America's Best Dance Crew. And actually, fun fact, I used to dance back in high school. Good luck finding who I am in that crowd. But anyways, the table's really good. As soon as I got on the list, they started a brand new 1-2 game. So I did find out that it's the Canelo versus GGG fight. So what's happening is a lot of people are over here for the weigh-ins. So there are a ton of people funneling into the poker room. There's a couple of people that are sitting on my table that are complete fish, and it just got good right before I stood up to go do this mid-session update. There's a couple brand new people, foreigners, who just sat down. And there's another player that's playing a little bit interesting, a couple seats to my right. You know, I usually don't target people. I'm just waiting for my spot. So far throughout the session, my hands have been very straightforward. I haven't really gotten any really good hands, but nonetheless, let's go sit back down. I am going to book a win. Right now we are up probably close to $60, $70, and I'm gonna be in it for the long run. I'm gonna just pick my spots wisely. So let's see how I do.
All right, let's talk about this one. So I wake up with pocket kings. I am under the gun +1. So there's one limp ahead of me and I raise it up to $15. It folds around to the big blind who calls and the initial limper folds. So just a little bit of a background. Big blind is the player that I was talking about in my mid-session update when I said that I didn't really want to target people. But I definitely was throughout the session trying to isolate her. So the flop comes 10-8-4 with 2 hearts. Big blind immediately grabs from her stack and throws out a bet. I ask how much, and it's $45. So there's $33 in the pot, so it's a slight over bet of what's already in the pot. So I have $225 left in my stack, just about. In retrospect, or maybe if I was deeper, I probably would have wanted to raise to 105 or 110. If I raise to 105, 110, I'm only gonna have about $100 left or so, and I'll be able to shove a whole bunch of turns. Decided to shove. And she sits and thinks for quite a long time, and she says, I know I have you beat, and flips over pocket jacks and folds.
How much is that? 40? 45? All right, all in.
You said all in?
Yeah.
He's all in. There you go.
Right after the other pocket kings hand, and I'm now under the gun on the very next hand with the same pocket kings. So I'm under the gun, I raise it up to $15, folds around to that same lady who makes the call. So we're heads up to a flop. The flop comes Jack 6 deuce rainbow, and she does the same exact thing. She took some chips from her stack and threw it out in front. I asked how much it was, and it was $35 this time. So instead of putting her to the test and shoving all in, and I was still trying to think about what happened in the previous hand, I decided to make a raise, and I think I might have made too big of a raise. I made it a 100 straight. She takes the same amount of time to tank and think about it, and she ends up folding Jack 8 offsuit, face up, saying, I know I have you beat.
Raise. 15.
$100.
Where's my gun?
After a few orbits, people started leaving the game. When we went down to 5-handed, I asked the others at the table if they wanted to do a PLO game. Another player that suggested a PLO and a no limit mix game. So we had the dealer call the floor over and it was agreed. Our game turned into a 1-2 no limit hold'em and pot limit Omaha mixed game with the game switching every orbit. This hand is going to be our all-in hand of the session, and unfortunately I wasn't video recording at this time, so I don't have the whole cards on video. So this hand happened during the second orbit of No Limit Hold'em, and this is against the same exact player that I played against with both of my Pocket Kings hand before. She just lost a big pot, so she looked like she was tilting just a little bit. And she tried to put a straddle in before the cards were dealt, but she was too late, so she just elected to put a raise in for $5 instead. So she's under the gun and she raises to $5, folds around to me on the button, and I wake up with Ace-King offsuit. I decide to make it $15 to go. Folds back around to under the gun, and she min raises to $30. I have a decision between raising or calling, and since our stack sizes are close together, I like to make it $100 straight, and she makes the call. So the flop comes 7-9 deuce rainbow. She did the small pump fake when she was reaching for her chips, and then decided to check, and she verbally checked. So it was sort of a weird motion that I hadn't seen her do before. With so much money that went in the pot pre-flop, I have a decision between betting and checking, and since the flop doesn't really hit my range too hard, I elect to check. I'm still ahead of her weaker aces and other Broadway cards that she could be holding and calling me pre-flop with. The turn card is another 7. She checks it over to me again, and I feel like the 7 is a better card for me. It doesn't really change much, and if I was ahead on the flop and pre-flop, I'm still ahead now. So I go ahead and do a late continuation bet of $100. She doesn't think too long before she makes the call. The river comes A4, and she checks it over to me. So there's no flushes or straights that are on the board, and I feel like because of how big the pot was pre-flop, that I have to go for it. So I decide to shove for $115. Can't really think of any cards that she could be showing up with that she's calling pre-flop that beats me right now. So she only thinks for a little bit and eventually she says that she knows she has me beat and flips over King 10 face up into the muck. Heads up, I'm not really too much of a PLO expert. I've been playing for a little bit, but alright, so here's a PLO hand for you guys. It's against the same exact player that from all the other hands that I went over with. So she actually did straddle under the gun. I'm on the button, folds around to me on the button, and I have ace-ace 5-8 double suited. I decide to pot for $15, folds around to under the gun, who repots it for $52. And she doesn't have too much behind, so I shove all in and she calls. The board runs out with 3 spades, and she flips over King, Deuce, Jack 9 with the second nut flush, and we take down the pot. This is also the very last hand that this particular player played, and she didn't rebuy. So pretty crazy, the whole session, all the hands I wanted to review were against this particular player. Alright, so this is the last hand I'm going to go over, and it's a PLO hand. We are 5-handed, and under the gun pots for $7. Middle position calls, and we are on the button with ace, ace, queen, jack with nut spades. I feel like this is a very strong hand that I should be 3-betting with pre-flop, especially short-handed, so I decided to repot to $28. Both players call. So we're 3 ways to a flop of Queen Jack 4 with 2 diamonds. Checks to me, we have top 2 pair and the overcard, the overpair with the aces. And this is probably where I could have played the hand differently. But with this holding, I decided to pot for $87. So the under the gun player calls for less, and the middle position player decides to shove all in. We have the middle player position covered. This is definitely one of the first times I tanked during the session, so I really needed a couple of minutes to figure out what to do. Now, I don't really have too much experience in PLO, so I definitely wasn't sure what the right action was. So I know that I don't have the nut flush redraw, and I'm essentially drawing to a queen and a jack. And I was doing the whole looking at my hand thing, trying to figure out, you know, where I was at. And the under the gun player accidentally flashes his ace of diamonds, so he flips it face up. So that definitely got me thinking a lot more, because if he, the short stack, has the ace of diamonds and has the nut flush draw, what are the chances of me being ahead of middle position players repot? I block pocket queens and I block pocket jacks. He could have pocket fours that's calling me pre-flop, and I just didn't know PLO well enough to know if I should be calling or not. And it's for a huge part of my stack, and we were up a whole bunch for the session. So after taking literally 4 or 5 minutes, I decide to let it go. Under the gun shows ace queen deuce 3 for top pair top kicker, and middle position shows jack jack 9-5 for middle set. The board runs out clean for the set, and now I know it was a good fold being results oriented, but I'm curious as to if I should have called based on the information that I had. You know, with under the gun showing the ace of diamonds and middle position player playing a little bit wider when we were playing PLO. But I don't know, tell me what you guys think, and also tell me if you guys like this format of my hand reviews. Try to give it a little bit of a different flavor this time around.
One, 2, 3, 4, 20, 35, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, guys, so it's almost 4 in the morning. I'm right by the boxing ring that's located in the hotel check-in of MGM. Let's just do a quick wrap up, but let me catch you guys up. So right after I did the mid-session update, our table was about to break. We were down to like 5-handed. And then, of course, I'm trying to mix things up a little bit. I was like, why don't we play some PLO? So next thing you know it, there were 2 German dudes that were there. They were fucking awesome to play with. We were playing a mixed game. We were playing No Limit Hold'em for an orbit and Pot Limit Omaha for an orbit. That was a lot of fun. And I was able to get some footage. I got into some interesting spots that, you know, I want to go over with you guys. So I'll probably do the hand recap there. When I get home, we'll go ahead and talk about it. So I'm not too familiar with Pot Limit Omaha, so it's always fun to mix things up and learn new things. But I got into a really tough spot for, you know, a huge pot, but I ended up folding. Nonetheless, let's do the end of session wrap up. So today we started with this as our bankroll, and we bought in for $200 and we cashed out for $438. So we book another win at the MGM. That wraps that up for this casino. Next week, I'm thinking about going somewhere different. I don't know where yet. But last week I said MGM. I think next week I'm gonna leave it up to chance. I think I'm gonna draw it from a hat. That's what I'm gonna do. In the beginning of the next vlog, I'm gonna draw my next casino out of a hat. But I hope you guys like this vlog. As always, subscribe to my channel. Comment below if you guys wanna give me some tips, or if you wanna just talk to me, hit the thumbs up button so I know that you liked the video. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down button and let me know what I can do better. But nonetheless, I will see you guys next weekend on Friday, and hopefully this video isn't that hard to edit. Take it easy.